So 61508, we said about that has really to do mostly with electronical and electronically programmable devices. Of course, there are kind of similar standards for all kind of other industries, like the nuclear industry. And for example, 5128 is an example for example, the railway industry. So, where you start looking at railway control system, railway signals, computers in railway systems. So in other words, just another application area where software plays an important role, and the software needs to, in a lot of cases, be safety critical. In other words, there is applications like, for example, the railway control systems, where it's very important that the probability that failure occurs due to software is reduced as much as possible for safety reasons. So I would recommend you to look into this a little bit more, but this is just another standard that's software related that follows kind of a similar approach as 61508. Another one is software standard 12207. The thing about this software standard, and we'll see this coming back later when we start talking about DO178C, it kind of breaks down the life cycle in three things: in primary life cycle processes, supporting life cycle processes, supporting life cycle processes. And if you look at each one of these, you can see the difference in character. In the primary life cycle process, it describes a set of activities, things, attributes that need to be done for the people that acquire the system that you're writing the software for, people that supply the system, people that supply the product that contains the software component, for people that actually are developing the software product, for people that are operating it, and people that are maintaining it. So it describes the life cycle processes from these different points of view. So if you're a software developer, you have to really start looking at what's involved, what kind of attributes need to be present in the development cycle, life cycle processes. Besides the primary life cycle process, you have the so-called supporting life cycle processes. These are really there in support of the primary ones. Documentation. You need to document whatever you're developing. You need to document the acquisition process that you're developing. Configuration management. We'll talk about this in a lot more detail. You need to configure, make sure that you can uniquely identify everything that you're developing. Of course, then you need to verify, validate it, review it, audit it. There's a ton of things that are just playing a supporting role in all these primary life cycle processes. Well, the organizational life cycle processes are kind of straightforward. You still need to manage, you need to have some infrastructure in place, you need to train your people. So these would be examples of organizational life cycle processes that are described, for example, in the 12207 standard. Now, I put a couple more examples in that if you, of course, in the standard themselves, if you look at this, for example, section 5.3, which is the development life cycle process, it will give you a ton more details about what kind of activities take place within this life cycle process. And you see, we've seen some of these already: system requirements development, software requirements analysis and design, architectural design, detail design. We saw the same thing when we were talking about 61508 as part of the V life cycle model. So you see, 1207 may give a different spin on it, but most of the ingredients are still there. And we'll see that this is the same case when we start talking about DO178C. Now, before I do that, I have a couple of references these are DO178C related references that we're going to be using.